Hello and welcome back with Mrs. Struble. Today in this video we are going to talk about how we solve equations using multiplication and division. These are going to be one-step equations in that we only need either multiplication or division. In our last video we discussed how solving equations is essentially finding equivalent equations that give us a more direct answer as to what a missing value is. We used the addition property of equality and the subtraction property of equality to do that. In this video, we're going to take that same concept, but we're going to apply it, we're going to apply it when we have multiplication and division to basically undo. So we're going to use the multiplication property of equality and the division property of equality. In order to rewrite equations to create equivalent equations. So the multiplication property of equality states that if we have some expression A equal to another expression B, then if we multiply A by another value or expression, and we do the same to B, we still come up with an equivalent equation. So it states that this equation is equivalent to this. Basically, because we're keeping that balance, we're doing the same exact thing to both sides. So if A, for example, was, let's do some number divided by 3, and remember A, these values can be expressions. So this is an expression, A divided by 3. And let's say B was like 12, okay? Just keep it basic. If we were to divide, or multiply rather, both A and B by a certain value, we can rearrange this equation to tell us exactly what X is. And we wouldn't have changed anything other than how the equation looks. So we would have an equivalent equation that would directly tell us what this missing value is. In this case, we're going to say C is equal to 3. Okay, so we would have X divided by 3 times 3. And the reason we picked 3 is because that 3 in the denominator and C as a 3 would cancel each other out and equal 1. Oops. And obviously we said that B was equal to 12, so it would actually be 12 times 3, okay, which would give us X equals 36. If we put 36 right here, we'll find that this is an equivalent. This is also equal, okay? So that's what they mean by equivalent equations. They are both equal when X is 36, all right? We can utilize this same idea with the division property. I'm not going to go through an explicit example, but I will write the definition of the property. It says that if A equals B, then if I divide A by a value or an expression C, and I do the same thing to B, okay, I again get an equivalent equation, which will help us solve these. Okay. Now let's dive into some examples here. We're going to be working more with rational numbers. So let's take this example. And we're going to use the properties discussed in order to figure out the missing value. Okay. We see that there is multiplication involved when we have -4 and y. So -4y means -4 times y. We're going to use the division property, and we're going to undo that -4 in order to isolate the y. Okay, so we're using the division property here, right? When we do that, the -4 divided by -4 equals 1, and 1 times y is equal to y. Looking at the other side, we have 18 divided by -4. Positive times a negative is equal to a negative. So we know we're going to get a negative answer, 18/4. Writing that properly, we see that 4 goes into 18 4 times with 2 left over. So we're going to have -4 1/2. Let's do another one. -4/5 x equals -8. Okay. First, we have to identify what property are we going to implement. Well, we see that there's our x, and what's happening to the x is it's being multiplied by -4/5. So again, we're going to use the division property here, and we're going to divide by the reciprocal in order to undo -4/5. Excuse me. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. We're going to divide by -4/5 in order to undo it. So what we do to A, or one side, we do to the other. That's what the division property says of equality, okay? Now we have to think about division with fractions. Well, division with fractions, keep, change, flip. Okay, so we change that to multiplication, and the fraction flips to its reciprocal. What happens? That equals 1 now. So it's 1 times x is x. We do the same thing over here. We get -8 equal to -5/4. Simplify, multiply straight across, and we get 10 as our answer. Okay. Let's go ahead and do a couple of try-its. See how you do, and then you can go ahead and get started on your assignment afterwards. All right, go ahead and pause the video, try these 6 problems, and then I'll be back with you. Now that you've tried these, here are the answers. Go ahead and check and see how you did. Okay. Go ahead and check and see how you did. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me, thank you. All right. And try out your assignment problems. So in this video, we discussed how to solve equations using multiplication or division.